the max minus the min divided by 2, or half the distance between the max and the min. Now the absolute value, all that does is it forces it to be positive. So if I gave you the absolute value of 3, the answer is 3, because the absolute value is just the distance from 0. So if I say the absolute value of 3, you tell me the answer is 3 because it's 3 from 0. If I say the absolute value of negative 3, the answer would be 3 because it's 3 from 0, right? So it's the absolute value is the distance, so it always forces it to be positive. So like if I got into this absolute values and I got a negative 8, when I apply the absolute values, it would just come out as 8 divided by 2, which is 4. It would just force it to be positive. And the reason why you have to have the absolute value signs is the key thing with amplitude is always positive. Hence why it has absolute values that force it to come out as positive. Always positive. Once you have that written, we're going to go flip right to the very front. Okay. We have to find the amplitude, the midline, and the period, and the equation of all of these. So don't go writing massively, because we're going to come back. We're doing the amplitude of all of them first, then we're going to come back and we're going to do the midline of all of them, then we're going to do the period of all of them, and then we're going to give an equation. By the end of tomorrow, we'll have gone through all of it. Okay? Today, we're really focusing on amplitude. So don't like write massive. You won't have room to do the rest. Okay? So I'm going to show you with the formula amplitude first. So amplitude, the formula is the absolute value of the maximum. What is the highest this graph goes to? 3. Minus the minimum. What's the absolute lowest this graph goes to? Negative 3. Divided by 2. What happens when we get a negative divided by a negative? I mean a negative times a negative, sorry. It becomes a really big addition sign. What's 3 plus 3? 6. What's the absolute value of 6? 6. Absolute value of any positive is positive. Absolute value of any negative is positive. Right? It's the distance from 0. So we're going to get 6 over 2, which is 3. The other way you can do it is literally just counting the distance and dividing by 2, but you have to show your work. So if I count the distance from the min to the max, watch me. I'm going to go 1. So this doesn't count as 1. I haven't moved. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has a distance of 6. We agree? So instead of actually doing the math up there, I could go, okay, the distance is 6. And I have to find half of it. So I divide by 2 and I get 3. So it just bypasses the formula. You literally just count, okay? 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, 5 step, 6 to get to the top, divided by 2 is 3. You have to show this portion though. So if you're doing amplitude without the formula, you have to show this distance divided by 2. You have to show some math, right? Because how do they, if they say determine to you and you have no math shown but 3, what did you determine? I don't know. I didn't see your work. Okay? Do you have to use the formula? No. Could you use the second way? Yeah. Could you use the second way and the first? Yeah. Is either one better? Nope. Whatever one you can do and get an actual answer for is right. Now, follow along and do exactly what I do, because we're going to need this for the next step when we come back and redo everything tomorrow for every class. So how do we check if we're right with amplitude? Well, we count down that amount from the maximum, we count up that amount from the minimum, and if they meet at the same horizontal spot, in the vertical spot in the middle, like the horizontal line, then we're right. So let's count. So we say it's an amplitude of 3, which should be half the distance. We agree? So if I start at a maximum and I count down 3, I get 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to draw an arrow. So that's 3 down. We agree? Now hopefully if I count from the minimum 3 up, they meet at the same spot, so I actually have half the distance, correct? So I start at minimum, and I count up 3. 1, 2, 3. Wait a second, did they meet? Yeah, then I'm right. It's like a double guarantee on your amplitude. It also gets you your midline, the line in the very middle. Because where are they meeting at? The x-axis, are they not? Based off of yesterday, what is the equation of the x-axis? Does anyone remember? What equals 0? Y. The x-axis is y equals 0. The y-axis is actually x equals 0. They're the opposite of what you think, right? So this, I'm going to put as y equals 0. Now, if you don't do the arrows and the line in between, you will be doing it tomorrow very quickly as I fly through these questions, because I'm banking on the fact that you followed along and did what I told you to do. So we're counting down, counting up. Where they meet, we draw a middle line and we label it. Okay? Now, it's always going to be y equals 0 if the graph is symmetrical about the x-axis. What does that mean? If the same amount of graph is above the x-axis as there is below the x-axis, your midline, the middle line, will be the y. It will be the x-axis, the y equals line, right? Because that would be the middle of it. Let's look at this one. Is this one going to be the same below as above? No. So my midline is going to be a positive one. It's going to be somewhere above, right? Because there's more above the x-axis than below. So let's try the formula out first. Amplitude equals the absolute value of the max. What's the maximum? 6 minus the minimum, -2, divided by 2. Is it always going to be minus a minus? No, if the entire graph was above the x-axis, it would be minus whatever the positive minimum was, right? So a minus, so if we do get that, this is a really big plus sign. 6 plus 2 is 8 divided by 2, which is 4. We don't want to use the formula from the formula sheet, or not from the formula sheet, formula I showed you. You can count the distance. So I'm going to start at the minimum, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because this takes me 1 to get to here, 2 to get to here, 3 to get to here, 4 to get to here, 5 to get to here, 6, 7, 8. And then I show 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Okay? Now I have to check it. You have to draw the lines like I'm telling you have to do, because remember, tomorrow it's going to be important to have them. Plus, it's always important to check. So I need to go up 4 from the minimum. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like I'm stopping at 2. Now I'm going to count down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where are we meeting at? So we draw a horizontal line, and we label it y equals 2. Remember, if you're someone who's struggling with logs and exponents, there's scheduled help where you can ask and be like, hey, Lepp, can you throw me some questions on the board? And I can try it. Right? 3 has to have a little bit of extra information. They have to say that there is a minimum at 9 and I don't know why I was drawing a 0. 9, comma, -3. They have to give you a bit of more information. Okay, so let's do my amplitude. Do both of them again. Remember, when you start doing them on your own, you can pick whichever one you want. But if you use the counting distance, you have to show that first step. The amplitude is the absolute value of 3 minus -3 divided by 2, which is 3 minus makes big plus, so it's 6 divided by 2, which is 3. If I just do the distance, I would count the distance. So I would start at -3, and I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a distance of 6. And then I have to take half of it. So it's 3. Now once again, we still have to count up 3. 1, 2, 3. Count down 3. 1, 2, 3. Where are they meeting at? The x-axis. So that's good. That means I didn't mess up. What is the equation of the x-axis? Y equals 0. Then you're going to flip over. You have all the way from 4 to 11 where I want you to find the amplitude. Yes, I know that 8, 9, 10, and 11 ask for other stuff. I am not concerned about the other stuff at this very moment. All I want you to do for every single graph till 11, including 11, is get me the amplitude, the amplitude, the amplitude, the amplitude. If you choose to do the formula, go ahead. If you choose to count the distance, you have to show the 2 steps. If you show the 6 divided by 2 steps equals 3. And you have to write the word amplitude. Okay? Trying it out. Go.